Muy de vez en cuando. Muy de vez en cuando. Muy de vez en cuando. Remember, the Z sound in Spanish is very similar to the S sound in English, okay? So this sound, very similar to S, okay? We really don't have a specific sound for S, the letter S and the letter Z in Spanish. So just keep that in mind. Both of them sound like the letter S in English. Okay. So that's something important to learn for sure. Now this phrase is technically you can say de vez en cuando. Okay, de vez en cuando, but you can also use muy de vez en cuando. Okay, so this makes it a bit more, the meaning intensifies, I would say. Let me show you what this phrase means. It's an easy one, it's a common one, and it's a good one for sure. Okay, so this means once in a blue moon. It's very similar to that saying, and also it means very occasionally. Okay, so when you do something not that often, very occasionally. So muy is very similar to saying, or it means very, okay, very or so. Muy bonito, very beautiful. Muy caliente, very hot, okay? So muy intensifies this phrase. So if you just say de vez en cuando, that's similar to saying once in a blue moon, okay? But if you add muy, man, it's like you barely do that. You never do that, but sometimes you do very, very occasionally, okay? So let's look at some examples using this phrase. Remember, we are not literally translating this phrase because, as I said before, muy means very or so. De means of or from. Vez means time, as in once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Okay, so we're talking about that kind of time. And also en is very versatile. It means in, on, and at. So that's a very useful little word right there. And cuando means when. Okay, so the literal translation, it really doesn't make sense. So it's good to know its meaning as a phrase. Once in a blue moon, very occasionally. Okay, now let's look at some examples using this peculiar phrase. The first example is de vez en cuando me doy el gusto de un pastel de chocolate. De vez en cuando me doy el gusto de un pastel de chocolate. Okay, so let's break this down. Before that, let's see the meaning. I think it's better to look at the meaning first. The meaning is I treat myself to chocolate cake once in a blue moon. Okay? Man, chocolate cake is delicious. But yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's not a good idea to eat chocolate cake every day or cake in general every day. But once in a while, very occasionally, people eat cake. Okay? So let's break this down. De vez en cuando, so that's the phrase we're learning today. And that means once in a blue moon. Yo me doy el gusto. Okay, yo me doy el gusto. Darse el gusto. This is a verb, right? By the way, this is a verb, the verb dar. Dar. Dar, D-A-R, means to give, okay? But when you are talking about treating yourself, the phrase darse el gusto means to treat oneself. Okay? So if I say yo me doy el gusto, that means I treat myself. Okay? That's a great phrase right there. It's amazing. I love it. De is like you are adding more to the sentence because you can say me doy el gusto de comer pastel. I treat myself to cake, to eating, just eating cake in general. So de in this situation is similar to okay? Un means a. Technically, you're saying a chocolate cake. In English, you don't have it, but in Spanish, when talking about cakes, you can say un pastel, dos pasteles, tres pasteles. So if you're talking about just one cake, you can say un. So that means a pastel de chocolate means chocolate cake. A chocolate cake. That is the literal translation. So pastel, cake. Pastel, by the way, pastel is a noun and it's a masculine noun. That's why we're saying un. Un is masculine. It means a, right? And that's why we are using it with pastel. Pastel is masculine, then un has to be used, okay? De, when you're talking about flavors, you use de. When talking about cakes, you can say pastel de chocolate, pastel de vainilla, vanilla cake, pastel de, what other cake is common? Coco, coconut cake, okay? Pastel de coco, coconut cake. Or in this specific situation, we're talking about chocolate, chocolate, pastel de chocolate, okay? So that means chocolate cake, pastel de chocolate. Okay, so once again, de vez en cuando me doy el gusto de un pastel de chocolate. I treat myself to chocolate cake once in a blue moon. Okay, so carrot cake, that's another one. So you would say it like this, pastel de zanahoria. Zanahoria, a great one. Pastel de zanahoria means carrot cake. Okay, so you can just have pastel de and then add the flavor, okay, or vegetable in this situation. Chocolate. Okay. Now, if you want to say very, very occasionally, you can do this. Just let me erase all of this. You can just put here muy. Muy de vez en cuando me doy el gusto de un pastel de chocolate. Okay, so that means I treat myself to chocolate cake like very, very occasionally. Okay, so you can say that as well. Excellent. Excellent. Let's look at the next examples using this phrase. It's a good phrase. Everything in moderation. Yeah, right? Cake in moderation. Sugar in moderation. I gotta say, I don't have a sweet tooth, so it's okay for me. I don't mind not eating cake at all. But yeah, I mean, once in a while, de vez en cuando, yeah, a tiny bit, you know? Okay. Now, the next example is, ella usa tacones altos. Ella usa tacones altos. We're not talking about tacos, by the way. Solo de vez en cuando. Solo de vez en cuando. This means, I'm going to have to move this up a bit. This means she wears high heels only once in a blue moon. Okay? Very occasionally or occasionally. Okay. So let's break this down. Ella means she. Okay? She. Usa comes from the verb usar, which means to wear or to use. Usar is another great verb that has quite a few meanings, by the way. Ella usa, when talking about clothes, shoes, and mostly shoes and also like accessories, you can use the verb usar for that, okay? And it means to wear in that situation, in that peculiar situation. Ella usa, she wears tacones altos. Tacones altos. This means high heels, okay? High heels. Tacones altos. Now, that is said usually just as a general term all over the Spanish world, in Latin America, in Spain as well. I believe so. But I know for sure that in Latin America, you say tacones altos. That term is a common term to refer to high heels, okay? You can sometimes people just say tacones, by the way, not tacones altos. Some people say just tacones, which means also high heels, okay? Tacones altos. Solo means only, okay? It can also mean lonely. It can mean lonely. Me siento solo or sola. Sola is the feminine, feminine form of solo. Me siento sola. I feel lonely. Estoy sola. I'm alone. Okay. Or it can also mean only. Okay. Solo. Lone. Not lonely. Sorry. Only in this situation. Only. De vez en cuando. We have the phrase here that we're learning. De vez en cuando. Once in a blue moon. Or you can also say, ella usa tacones altos solo muy de vez en cuando. Okay? You can actually also, you don't need this. You can say it, of course. You can say solo de vez en cuando. If you add muy, ella usa tacones muy de vez en cuando. I would not use solo in that situation. But just keep that in mind. Sometimes, you can have only because, in this situation, you're saying only very occasionally, pretty much, which it makes sense, but you're already saying muy, which means very occasionally, okay? Very occasionally, so you don't need solo in that situation. But if you don't have muy, you can say solo. Solo de vez en cuando, once in a blue moon, okay? Excellent. Do you guys have any questions? Remember, muy de vez en cuando or de vez en cuando means once in a blue moon, very occasionally. You can say muy if you want to intensify the phrase, just to say very, very occasionally. Okay? Perfect. Any questions?